At the southern tip of Santorini, archaeologists found a city with no one in it. The streets are still here. The houses still stand, 2 and 3 stories tall, empty and waiting. Inside, the storage jars are full. Barley, flour, lentils, sealed and never opened again.
Whoever lived here took everything they could carry and left their food behind.
3,600 years ago, an entire city walked out the door and vanished from history. In the town itself, not one body has ever been found. This is Akrotiri. The day it died is the closest thing the Bronze Age has to a recorded apocalypse, written in rock, not words. Around 1600 BC, the exact year is still argued, the volcano beneath this island detonated, several times the size of Krakatoa. It buried the city. It shattered the island, and it threw the sea against the shores of Europe's first great civilization. What follows is that day, from first warning to last wave. 4 questions. Why did this small island hold up the Bronze Age world? What did its people sense was coming? And the day itself. What happened? Hour by hour. And the question 6 decades of digging has not closed. Where did everyone go? By the end, you may find you already knew this story under a different name. Rewind a generation, and the map tells you why the island mattered. It is the Bronze Age, and scattered across the Aegean Sea, the first great seafaring culture in European history.
We call them the Minoans. We don't even know what they called themselves.
Their home is Crete, an island of palaces, and the palaces stand open to the light, nothing like the fortress citadels of the mainland. Not because Crete knew no violence, it did, but its first wall was the fleet. We know what that fleet looked like because the people of Akrotiri painted it. A procession of ships, dolphins under the hulls, towns cheering from the headlands. The closest thing we have to a photograph of Bronze Age sea power. 110 kilometers north of Crete stood the network's forward post, Thera, one island around a volcanic heart, a harbor town on its southern shore. Akrotiri, warehouses, houses 3 stories tall, running water piped through the walls, and frescoes painted across the rooms. And writing, a script called Linear A, which no one alive can read. A rich town on a quiet sea. Underneath it, a magma chamber the size of a mountain. Here, the story stops being about a place and becomes about a decision, whether to stay or leave. Under the volcanic ash, archaeologists found something older. Earthquake damage, collapsed stairs, cracked walls. And then, repairs. Rubble cleared into neat piles, walls half rebuilt. Akrotiri was wounded and healing for years, perhaps decades, before the mountain made its next move. First, a small eruption, a thin gray dusting across the rooftops. The ground speaking again. And the people of Akrotiri read it and made their choice. They left. Not in panic, in order. They took their valuables, their tools, whatever could be carried. The food, tons of it, stayed sealed in the jars, too heavy to carry, easy to replace, or they meant to come back. So where did they go? In the whole excavated city, only one precious object has ever been found. A gold ibex figurine, sealed in a wooden box, inside a clay chest, beside a stack of animal horns. One gold figure, left behind. Did they carry the rest of their gold out with them when they left? This one piece, they did not. They had warning. They read it. They left in good order. By every rule of disaster, this story should end well. What none of them could know was that the trap wasn't the ash. It was the water. On an ordinary day, in an unknown summer, the island came apart. The rock remembers the hours. Phase 1. The vent opens. A column of pumice and gas punches past the cruising altitude of every aircraft that has ever flown, 30 kilometers up or more. Pumice, stone so light it floats on water, rains on Akrotiri. A centimeter, a meter, several meters. The upper floors disappear. There is no one left to dig them out. Phase 2. The sea finds the magma. Seawater floods the widening vents and flashes to steam against molten rock. The explosions go beyond category. Surges of superheated ash sweep the island from end to end. Phase 3. The chamber, having blasted 35 cubic kilometers of the island out of itself, is empty. Nothing is holding the ground up anymore. Phase 4. The center of the island falls into the void. The sea pours into the wound. When the air clears, Thera has the shape it has today, a broken ring around a drowned crater. The calm blue bay where cruise ships anchor tonight, that is the hole. On Thera itself, the eruption kills almost no one. The people are already gone. The dying happens somewhere else. When that much rock hits the sea and the sea floor drops away, the ocean answers. The waves are already moving south. Crete's northern coast lies 110 kilometers away, and they cross it in roughly 15 to 20 minutes. We know they were real because we keep digging them up. At Amnisos, the harbor of Knossos, seaborne pumice on the floors of ruined villas, walls knocked out of line. The find that first made a young archaeologist, Spyridon Marinatos, blame the volcano. An idea so bold, the journal printed it with a disclaimer. 3 decades later, he was the man who dug Akrotiri out of the ash. At Palekastro, on Crete's eastern tip, a chaos layer. Building debris, smashed pottery, volcanic ash, and seabed shells flung inland together. The field evidence says waves at least 9 meters high. A 3-story building made of water. And nothing on that coast was built to stop it. And the only victims ever found were not on Crete at all. In 2021, at Cheshmi on the Turkish coast, more than 200 kilometers from the volcano, excavators opened a tsunami debris layer and found a young man and a dog, swept into rubble as the sea came in. The first faces of this disaster, and so far, the only ones. The sea takes its dead back. Before a great wave strikes, the sea first pulls away, bearing the seabed in one long, quiet minute. It may be why the people of Akrotiri are still missing. If they were waiting on a shore for rescue, the sea reached them first. Now, count what else stood on the coasts that faced Thera. The harbors, the shipyards, the fleet. If the ships were home, they died at their moorings. An empire of sailors had just lost an argument with the sea. Here is where the simple version of this story falls apart. The simple version says the volcano erupted and the Minoans died. It is what Marinatos believed. The evidence says something stranger and worse. Crete does not fall that day. The palaces are repaired, the frescoes repainted. Life goes on for generations. But the heartbeat has changed. Ash had settled on the fields of eastern Crete, perhaps enough to cost a harvest, and the fleet and harbors had to be rebuilt, slipway by slipway, by a wounded economy. And some archaeologists argue the deepest wound was the one no spade can find. A people whose gods were the powers of nature had watched those powers try to kill them. Then, around 1450 BC, the real end comes. And it does not come from the volcano. In a single archaeological horizon, site after site across Crete burns. The cause is still argued. Violence is the leading reading. And when writing resumes at Knossos, it is in a new script, Linear B. That one we can read. It is Greek. The Mycenaeans, mainlanders who learned the sea in the Minoans' shadow, now sit in the palace at Knossos and keep its accounts in their own tongue. The eruption didn't kill Europe's first civilization in a day. It broke what could not be rebuilt, the certainty that the sea was theirs. Catastrophes rarely kill a civilization on the spot. They break something that never heals, and then the neighbors do the rest. One more thing. The Greeks never forgot there had once been an island power, rich, brilliant, ringed by the sea. Minos, the labyrinth, the bull. More than 1,000 years after the eruption, an Athenian philosopher wrote down a story he said was already ancient. An island civilization of unmatched wealth and pride that angered the gods and sank into the sea in a single day and a night. Plato called it Atlantis. Most scholars think Plato invented Atlantis, a parable about pride, not a place. His island is too big, too old, and in the wrong ocean. But if any real day ever seeded that story, If one drowned world could echo for 1,000 years until it reached a philosopher's ink, there is exactly one candidate. The people of Akrotiri sealed their food for a return that never came. We have their houses, their paintings, the ghost of a bed. We never found them. But we may have been telling their story for 3,000 years under a different name.